They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
Oh, if Jeremy Hill can hold on to a fucking football.
That doesn't make sense.
You're listening to the P&E Bengals Fan Podcast.
3, 2, 1.
So what's up with this? So what do you think Denver's going to do at the quarterback position now? Now that Osweiler is out of the picture, you think they won the Super Bowl, so they're last in the draft, first round.
Yep.
But you do have, people are talking about the possibility of an RG3 versus a Colin Kaepernick versus anybody else that might be available on the market. You see anything like that materializing?
Well, you almost have to get a veteran. I'm sure they're going to draft somebody. I'm sure it's not going to be early.
Right. But you got to get somebody now.
Kaepernick would be harder to get a hold of because you have to do some trade with the Niners to get him.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, do you know anything that's going on with his situation as far as his contract? Because a lot of people are saying that he might be done, but also Chip Kelly just went there, so...
He wants a trade.
Uh-huh.
Kaepernick does. But, like I said, there's just so many things that go into that. Like, the Niners aren't just going to give him away. Like, you're going to have to come back with something as far as trade value to make that trade. And I'm not sure if the team is going to be confident enough in Kilpatrick to give up anything significant, like a second or third round pick or anything. You might be able to get a fourth round pick out of him at this point or something, and at that point, it's not even worth it for the Niners to make a trade. So, honestly, I think at this point, the situation with Kaepernick is going to really show you just how good or bad his situation with the Niners are. Like, if he gets traded for a bag of peanuts, if he gets traded for, like, a six-round pick or something, then the 49ers just said, screw it, let's just wash our hands of this guy and move forward with Gabbert. Or what I'm thinking most likely is going to happen is that they're going to keep Kaepernick because there's nothing of value to get back from him.
I'd be surprised if he left, but I know there was a lot of talk about RG3, that being a potential landing spot for him, which obviously doesn't make sense if Kaepernick's in the equation. But
I just don't. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't see RG3 fitting into the culture that is Denver.
Well, he's really the same kind of a quarterback as Kaepernick is, but he does have a little bit better mechanics and everything.
Yeah, but I just don't see RG3 fitting into the, because basically who calls the shots in Denver? Elway. And I just don't see Elway looking at him and saying, this is the guy who should be our quarterback. I still really believe that RG3, well, honestly, I thought he might go to Houston, but now that they signed Osweiler, it's kind of if I was RG3 at this point, you go and back up Romo because the guy can't stay healthy for 6 seconds. So, you're going to play at some point next year. And you're playing in Texas, where you made your name. And, so I just don't see RG3 in Denver. I really just don't.
All right, fair enough. So you say Dallas, eh? You don't think your Cleveland Browns are going to make a run at him? Remember they wanted him out of the draft.
I'll say this. With Hugh Jackson at the controls,
you never know.
Nothing's going to shock me as far as who Cleveland signed.
Right.
Because, number one, they just lost Mack. So they just lost a big piece of the O-line. So, Hugh Jackson's kind of taken over a crumbling ship there. I was really surprised he took that job, to be honest with you, because it's just, at this point, it kind of seems like But if he can rebuild them, then that's a huge feather in his cap and whatever. But, because they've been dismal for so long. But
it's a rebuild, really. Yeah, right. It can go either way. I have to admit that I'm a little excited to see what he does in Cleveland. I kind of hope for his success because I like him, but as long as he's not successful against us, you know what I mean? Bring it to the Steelers and the Ravens, man. Leave the Bengals out of it. We like those 2 games a year.
Right? If Denver's situation is pretty dire at quarterback, and so is Cleveland. So if RG3 ended up at one of those spots, I would probably guess Cleveland. I would guess Cleveland over Denver, that's for sure.
I could see him in Cleveland. I mean, remember though when he came out in a draft, I think they were trying to trade up to get him too. He went number 2, right?
Yeah, but
Would he go behind Luck? Was it that year?
Yeah, but a lot of things have happened between now and then.
Yeah, true that.
That has really changed the value of RG3 if you want to look at it from that angle.
Yeah, but you might get more value now.
Well, I mean, you might pay him a little cheaper, but he might come in and produce. So, if I was RG3, I'd be looking at a 1 or 2 year contract, nothing more than that, just so you can prove yourself and get back on the road and make more money. Because it has to be a hit to his ego, what went down in Washington. Which, by the way, I don't think Kirk Cousins is the answer. I think Kirk Cousins should send a gift basket to every other team in the NFC East for being so shitty last year, which allowed him to get an NFC East title under his belt and allowed him to make some money from the Redskins. Because, I mean, number one, you barely won the division with an okay subpar team. So it wasn't like Kirk Cousins and the Skins were blowing people out of the water. They just played a really shitty division.
Right.
Number one, if I was RG3, I'd be glad I washed my hands of it and be able to move on in my career. And number two, I think whatever they signed Kirk Cousins for is going to end up being a mistake. He has the look of a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But one never knows.
Yeah.
One never knows. So, we'll see how that goes. But RG3, man, that's such a hard call, especially now with the Texans out of the picture. That is just a really tough call, just because, like I said, you just don't know what value RG3 can bring, to any particular franchise. Like I said, Denver's not going to want to deal with that, I don't think. I mean, they're going to want somebody who they know can come in and play the position. With RG3, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, but now that we just started talking about it and having like Cleveland in the picture, it makes so much sense for him to go there. I mean, with Hugh Jackson trying to prove himself and everything like that.
But here's the other reason why Cleveland doesn't make sense, though.
Hit me with it.
All right. They have the number 2 pick in the draft?
True. That's true.
And they're talking about to go get that Goff kid from California.
That's true.
So the kind of veteran you want in that position is somebody who has the right study habits, someone who's going to be a really great mentor for whoever you draft as the number 2 pick. And I don't see RG3 as a great mentor. So outside of Dallas, I really just don't see where he's going to go. I just think it's Dallas or bust for RG3. I just don't think other teams are going to be comfortable enough. Because Denver's now in the same position. They're going to have to draft a quarterback, and you're going to want to bring in a veteran who can teach the quarterback how to play ball. And I don't think RG3 has that reputation in the league.
Yeah,
that someone's going to say,
not.
yeah, come in, play 2 years, mentor him, mentor the new kid. And, I mean, RG3 is still a work in progress himself to be trying to mentor a young kid. So then if you look at it from that angle, both Cleveland and Denver are out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else, but, I mean, unless the Jets can't re-sign Fitzpatrick, and then I can see RG3. But then what do you have in New York Jets? Then you have RG3 and Geno Smith, basically, which Geno Smith is basically a shittier copy of RG3. So... I just, when you look at certain situations in the league and, maybe RG3 goes and backs up Drew Brees in New Orleans, maybe. Other than that, I just don't see a place for him besides Dallas. I really just don't. All the signs really point to RG3 going to Dallas. But at the same time, Dallas can't offer a starting position. So if you're RG3, you really want to start somewhere. So, you're going to kind of hold out and hope something comes to light. But like I said, I mean, unless Hugh Jackson gets real desperate, I don't know. I just don't see it. I really just don't see it. And if Fitzpatrick leaves the Jets, I can see Fitzpatrick taking on Denver because they have a strong defense, and all you really need is a quarterback who can kind of hold down the fort.
I can see that. It's not sexy, but I like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's decent.
Ever since his days backing us up, yeah, he's a serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, showed improved in the Jets last year.
Remember, he had that really good year with the Bills too, and they gave him that huge contract. And then the next year, he kind of bombed it.
Flamed. My man just flamed out. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I was just going to say, since we were talking about the Browns and Hugh Jackson, what he's walking into, I saw that. I don't know if he's the number one, but Travis Benjamin just signed with somebody else, one of their go-to wide receivers.
Signed with the Chargers, I believe. Which, to be honest with you, so what?
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were going to say that. It's not like anybody really cares, but it's just one other thing. Although the Browns will probably be getting Josh Gordon back again off of his latest 1-year suspension.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's a hell of a talent. So even if he comes with all the problems, you almost have to put him back on the roster.
Even if he can only play every 2 years.
I'm trying to think, just Cleveland, man. I almost feel bad for Hugh Jackson, to be honest with you. I mean, unless they draft that kid Goff and he's the real deal, then they got something. And you bring Josh Gordon back and, things of that nature. But, but if Goff doesn't work out, if that kid isn't ready to play from day one, man, the Browns are in so much trouble.
Every quarterback that the Browns have gotten in the last 5 or 6 years, they've all just turned out to be just terrible decisions.
5 or 6 years?
Okay, you gonna bring it back?
Try about
forever.
I was gonna say try about 20 to 25 years. I mean, they haven't had a decent quarterback you can even speak of. I mean, unless you go back as far as Bernie Kosar. I'm trying to think of anybody who was sustainably decent in that time frame, and nobody comes to mind. I mean, at all. I mean, they drafted Couch in 99, I believe, in 1999. So that's at least 16, 17 years right there since they've had a decent quarterback. And Tim Couch was no good. So then you got to go further than that. So you're looking at least 20 years. But like I said, if they can draft Goff, and Goff is as good as they say they is, then you got something. You got something to work with. But you can look at it from this angle too. If you are a draft prospect quarterback, man, you're begging to get drafted by Cleveland because Hugh Jackson is so innovative with his offensive play calling. You would love that as a young quarterback. I mean, as long as you have the work habits, because you're gonna have to remember a pretty big playbook.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I'm kind of excited to see what Hugh Jackson does in Cleveland this next year. I'm rooting for him a little bit.
I am too, just because a stronger Cleveland with a strong Cincinnati usually means a weaker Pittsburgh, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
Just would love to see Pittsburgh, settle down for a little bit, which will be hard to do as long as they have Roethlisberger at quarterback. But
yeah,
that is what it is.
And I like the guy, so I'm going to say Mike Tomlin.
You like Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, I think he's a good coach.
I think he's a jack fuck. I think he's smug. I think he...
I mean, he's arrogant, but it seems like he knows what he's doing over there. Like you said, you got to be Roethlisberger, so it can't be that hard.
Well, let me say this. What did they look like without Roethlisberger?
Yeah, but look who the backups were. Yeah, Michael Vick, 40-year-old Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Who else was...
So here's my question. Is it all Tomlin? Or is it just the fact that he's got a good quarterback that he can ride? We're going to find out a lot about Tomlin once Roethlisberger hangs up the cleats. Because Roethlisberger, I mean, me and you can coach a football team with Roethlisberger and probably get 8-9 wins out of that team.
Yeah, he'll give you a couple of those guaranteed, won't he? Unfortunately. Yeah,
I mean, I liked Cowher when they had Cowher. I thought Cowher was all right, but Tomlin, man, I think Tomlin is such a production. He's a result of Ben Roethlisberger more than being a great coach, to say. But we'll see. We'll see how Pittsburgh moves along.
Move it along.
Yeah, moving along. But as that, I mean, I think our only major free agents now would have to be Andre Smith and Reggie Nelson, if you look at him from that angle. He did just come back from the Pro Bowl, so I guess you can say that about Nelson, although he's at that age now where you start to become a little weary, about giving him a bigger contract. But other than that, at least the first day of free agency, we settled a lot of big questions as far as where our team is going to go next year.
It's nice to see them double down on the defense just because it's been so stellar the last couple, just in recent history, especially last year.
Well, not only that, but Denver just showed a good defense can take you far.
Yep.
I'd like to see what P.J. Dawson is going to do this year. I hope he doesn't pull a Marcus Hunt and just disappear. Because if P.J. Dawson is anything like Bontes, which they say he has the instincts like Bontes does, and you put those two guys on the field together, that's nice. That is really nice. Playing behind Geno Atkins. One thing we didn't cover. Emmanuel Lamore, our backup linebacker, went to Minnesota, which to me he's a bit player, so that's either here or there.
Right,
I thought he was decent, though. I didn't think he was great, but I thought he was decent. But he did move, so I thought we should mention it, even if it was a minor piece. I'll be interested in seeing how we move forward now, because it definitely changes the outlook of our draft now, not re-signing Marvin Jones. So now the draft becomes a bit more interesting. Do they draft the best player on the board, as they have been accustomed to lately? Or do they draft for need, which I know that they hate doing, but with our wide receiver core, the situation it's in, you can kind of see them drafting to need.
On another note, I just wanted to tell you I'm on NFL.com, and I'm just looking at it, and I just see an article that says, "Can Matt Forte win a Super Bowl with the Jets?" Hello, no, the Jets?
Yeah, I doubt it. Matt Forte, like you said, I think you hit the big issue with Forte. It's not a matter of talent. It's a matter that he's getting a little long in the tooth now, and he carried the ball a lot in Chicago. So he's got that wear and tear on him. So,
yeah, but I'm just more addressing since when were the Jets a Super Bowl contender?
Well, not too long ago, they went to back-to-back AFC championships with Rex Ryan, and that's nothing. With Mark Sanchez as quarterback.
Right. Well, he's gone. Mark Sanchez is gone. They barely have a quarterback. They don't even have a quarterback in the fold right now. So it's just weird that they're talking about.
Well, when you're in New York and you
Super Bowl.
Deal with New York media,
everything is bigger, right?
Yeah, it's all championship or bust. So those questions are going to come as it refers to New York media, which is unfortunate for their fans because they don't even really get to enjoy their teams because there's always such a over high, just an expectation for their teams that is unrealistic. I mean, Fitzpatrick, unless you really build the defense up, Fitzpatrick's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Not off his arm anyway. But if you got a good defense around him, maybe. But I just don't see it. And Matt Forte, if he was 3 years younger, yeah, maybe he makes a huge impact. But at this current moment in time, I just don't see it. But that's the Jets for you. They hold out for any hope.
On another note, to switch gears a little bit, do you know what you're going to name your fantasy team this year? Is it going to be the same?
Have no idea. No idea. But we definitely need to get together and start plotting that out. If we're going to run our own league.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. We got to start looking into that. I think I'm going to go with, I might change my name up. Bring in a new squad. Although I like my Inglorious Passers.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty nifty. I liked it. I liked the name. I haven't even honestly given it any thought yet. So I'm sure at some point I will.
All right, so to be continued on the fantasy front.
Right?
But I was just thinking with a couple of people retiring and a lot of people moving shop, it's just, it's the same every year, but fantasy is just going to be that much more exciting as far as there's no Megatron, you know what I mean? And just like Matt Forte going to New York, it's always so fun just to kind of figure out, like, okay, who's going to be impactful once you go to a new team and stuff like that.
Yeah, because even if you believe or you do not believe in Marvin Jones as a receiver, he's going to go higher in a fantasy league draft just because he's going to get more targets in Detroit.
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially in that offense. Matthew Stafford's always throwing it. And
yeah, exactly.
This last year, their running game was just straight garbage.
Yeah, ever since Barry Sanders walked out on them, they haven't seemed to have been able to find a bell horse to carry the load. But That's the unfortunate part about losing a franchise player like that. Like, no one ever really seems to live up to the call. You know, the Dolphins have had the same problem since Dan Marino called it a night. Like, you know, they can't really seem to find a quarterback that they believe in, because if you're a fan and you watch Marino half your life, you know what I mean? Like, no one else compares. So it's kind of almost unfair, you know, to certain players. I mean, unless you're like the Niners and they had a good run of quarterbacks for a while there, Montana and Young and whatnot, you know. So, yeah, but that's rare. You know, it doesn't always happen. So, you know, you just got to kind of go with what you can and go from there. Same thing will happen with Minnesota when Adrian Peterson's gone. You know, nobody will match up to AP. So, you know, fans will always be disappointed, even if they're an okay player.
All right. Let's switch gears for a second here. Is there any other topic you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, with the Bengals, everything, you know, now that they re-signed to Loka and Pac-Man, and I think all's well in Bengals land. You know, I don't think you could ask. I think if you took a poll between most fans and said, who would you rather lose, Marvin Jones or George Iloka, I think almost to a man, most people would say you can lose Marvin Jones. You know, you find a receiver is a lot easier than finding an all-pro safety. You know, we'll see. I mean, Marvin Lewis.
I was going to say, all told, we'll leave it in Ice Cube's words and say, today was a good day. Day one of the 2016 NFL season.
Opening of free agency. The opening. That's the exciting part, is that it's just the first day and you had all those changes and, you know, and 4 major players retiring over the off season, you know, between Marshawn Lynch and Calvin Johnson and Darren, you know, Rod Woodson, or Darren, whatever his name was, Woodson and Peyton Manning. So if there's anything good that happened today, more than on the Bengals front, is that the Denver situation is dire. They went from having 2 solid quarterbacks to having nada.
Yo, that's it for this one. Follow us on Twitter at Pete and Erskine and Cincy Philo. And hit us up with your comments, your suggestions, and your questions. Till next time.